Hey everybody, this is Royal here with a completely different type of video today. As you can tell, given that I am speaking on my main channel and you aren't seeing Serena from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 on your screen, but I thought I'd take some time to do 3 separate videos talking about Lunalight theory and discussion in respect to the decks that were released in Justice Hunters, those being Yummy, Dracotail, and K9. And in this video, we'll be specifically starting with Yummy, just because I think there's a lot of people talking about this deck, mainly Triff Gaming, but there's tons of great creators out there. As a disclaimer, this video and the other 2 that I will end up doing will not be talking about how to hand trap these decks. I would like to think that I'm a good player, but there are many videos that talk about how to beat Yummy in general, and I really want to focus more so on what Lunalight has in terms of its engine and in terms of its available non-engine to deal with these decks and how we fare with them. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I think it's easier to start with talking about Lunalight going first, because I think the game plan and the interaction between Yummy and Lunalight is pretty simple in that regard. Our win con is obviously Lager Dancer going first. Does Yummy have an inarchetypal way to add it? Yes, but no at the same time. So yes, if you are able to set up the field spell, which is Yummy's Musement Minion, it grants all of your Yummy monsters 500 attack for each light beast on the field. If you set up a Yummy Snatchy with 5 other monsters, you will have enough to beat over the Lager Dancer's 3800. The issue with that is that it's just not realistic. Not only do we have the Lunalight Lager Dancer special summon Raigeki nuke, we also will have, ideally, SP Little Knight, Baguska, and the spell trap negate from Hound, and then whatever non-engine that we do have in our opening grid. Sometimes, you know, people like going into the second Lager Dancer. I don't personally like doing that, but you know, you can have 2 nukes if you want. So then it's basically going to come down to Yummy playing Lager Prevention, like most decks do. And that's where the Triff Gaming Yummy profile comes into play, because as you can see here, the deck is so hyper consistent with 1 card starters that it can dedicate a lot of its deck space towards non-engine. And in this specific deck profile here, we have 20 plus non-engine, which is insane. That means that in an opening 5 card hand, to see the chances of seeing 1 non-engine is about 96 to 97%. To see up to 3, that would put you at around 43 to 44%. So I would say it's going to be pretty common that they will be seeing at least 2 non-engine, if not more, pretty consistently. And what that means is that our pushes need to be a little bit higher in number in comparison to some other decks that are currently in the format. You can kind of treat it in the same way that we treat Malice now, because that deck runs a lot of non-engine. But I think if we're just talking the amount of different ways that Lunalight can push through just hand traps, we just have so many means between Gold Leo, Lunalight Masquerade, Tri-Brigade Fractal, both Foolish Burial and Foolish Burial Goods, and then stuff like the conditional extenders like Poly and Lunalight Fusion. So I think realistically, the way that we interact with Yummy is just like how we interact with most other decks. It's just we're going to be playing, can you stop me from getting to Liger? Yes, then you have a chance to win. If no, then it's not looking very good for you. But I think where Yummy interacts with us going first, being pretty similar to how other decks interact with us. Going second, I would say it is a pretty big beast. No pun intended, of course. I think it's a lot more meat to talk about, so let's get into that. All right, let's talk about going second now. Beyond the large amount of non-engine deck runs, obviously, we do have points of interaction like the Herald of the Arclight, the Yummy Snatchy, of course, and the Yummy Surprise. The first thing and the biggest thing that we'd have to address is the Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is not a very good card for Lunalight to deal with. Not only is it an Omni Negate, but it also is a floodgate that does impact us. It says that any monster sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. Meaning that something like Kaleido Chick, we can only send stuff from the extra deck. It has no other use, so we can't do Lunalight, Kaleido Chick, normal summon that, then do a Lunalight Gold Leo to the graveyard or Martin to the graveyard, and then use Perfume or Tiger to summon it. It would be banished. Alongside with that, it makes Gold Leo weaker because if we do the Gold Leo grab and pitch Silverhound, Silverhound will not go to the graveyard. It will go to the banishment instead. So it makes things a little bit that we have to essentially address the Herald of the Arclight first. It's the little mini game for per se. And there are cards that people have been running to deal with that. Stuff like Dino Wrestler Pankratops and Kashtira Fenrir, for example. Big special summonable bodies that do have effects that can address it on their own. But again, they have enough attack that they can go into the battle phase and beat over it. Here is where the issue lies with that. So if you go the route of using their effects as the means to get rid of the Herald will just negate it and pop it. So that would bring you to the second case of doing the going into the battle phase. But if you go into the battle phase, then you are making Yummy Snatchy live. And Yummy Snatchy can do setups where it summons the Cookie Yummy, or to do like the Book of Moon, the Book of Eclipse, or whatever, or the Cookie, which is the pop. So those are problems in themselves. And then the other thing is that you can just do tag outs using the synchros or doing the quick synchro with the Snatchy to dodge anything that was targeted by the Fenrir or the Pankratops, whether it was for battle or via their specific card effects. This isn't me saying that they are necessarily awful cards, but I don't think going into the battle phase with them to address the Herald is the most beneficial thing, because the battle phase is where we typically shine. Not only can we put up big numbers, but we shut down battle phase effects using the banishment of the Kaleido Chick when it's, you know, set up for like Perfume Dancer summons or ideally Liger Dancer summons in that regard. So I think while very capable cards, I think I rather not have to rely on the drawing of these specific cards to get into it. So what does that bring us next to, which is board breakers, which has been a very, I guess, controversial topic with this format and with Yummy in general. People are saying board breakers are great in versus deck. Some people are saying that they're absolutely awful. The main board breakers that people are running are Dark Ruler No More, Book of Eclipse, and my personal favorite, Forbidden Droplet. But those present their own problems in themselves, and we can address those. With Dark Ruler No More, it's a very capable card, and I know people have seen success with it. The issue is that, one, and primarily this is like the big one, Yummy Surprise is a busted card. It is an extra layer not only in its first effect but its second effect. Its first effect being that it can target 2 light beasts on the field, return 2 cards of your opponent, which is very good just to stop the threatening of any card on your board, on their board. But secondly, and more importantly, it's a special summon of a Yummy monster from the hand or the graveyard. It does not state that the effects of that monster are negated, meaning they can either go about one or two things. They can, grab a synchro from the graveyard to set up what would essentially be, a second herald, for example. Or they they set up a Yummy Snatching in the graveyard to set up a quick synchro for any of, again, the Cookie Yummy, to do the book, and then you can bounce that and summon the Cookie Yummy for a pop. So not only have you just stripped your ability to OTK them, but now you still have to deal with them quick synchroing anyway. And if you get rid of the monsters, then again, that's fine, but they're very hyper consistent. They will just find means of reestablishing the surprise using the Onari Link 2, or just doing the same 1-card combo again, because they run all of these cards. It's easy to recur the synchros back into the deck. It's as if nothing happened. And that's even before addressing the fact that they still have a bunch of hand traps that are ready to still stop you, even if you Dark Ruler number them. So that's one issue. Forbidden Droplet, since it's in front of us right now. Forbidden Droplet doesn't necessarily address the Herald of the Arclight in the best way, because Herald of the Arclight stops you from sending cards from the hand for Droplet's cost, because the cards must go to the graveyard, they cannot go to banishment. You have to either, one, send a monster that's already on the field, which you don't typically want to do unless your hand is pretty cracked on Lunas, or you have to send a spell or a trap. And if you send a spell or a trap, it just negates the Droplet anyway, meaning it's, sure, you can view it as a 1-for-1, but at that point, wouldn't you have wanted to use Droplet more so for maybe dodging a Veiler or Imperm, for example, rather than using it to proactively address the Herald? So I don't really think, as much as I love Droplet, it's the best way. And then Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse is another good card, but the issue with Book of Eclipse is, one, again, they will just negate it with the Herald. Or two, if they have the Yummy Snatchy on board, they'll still have the Yummy Surprise to do a special summon from the graveyard or from the hand, and they'll still go into quick synchro plays. Or they'll just Ash it. Because, again, they run enough hand traps that Ash is fine. And again, they have all these hand traps to deal with it. So I would personally say that the best approach going into Yummy, if you're going second and you just want the most consistent way of beating them, is by playing hand traps. The hand traps that I'm personally would say are good points are the Charmies. Prulia is more of an upstart. You'll get like maybe 1-2 draws off of that, and then Fuelos will hinder them from making like their quote-unquote full board, but it'll give you more draws than the Prulia would. I think that's great. The fact that we are a deck that can run Dominus Impulse with no problem, I think is great, because it stops stuff like the Yummy Surprise, or yeah, really just the Yummy Surprise, honestly, if they go about doing that. And if you want sort of more generic stuff, I don't personally recommend stuff like Veiler or stuff like Imperm, because the Yummy player should essentially restrict themselves from activating the effects of like the Yummy Snatchy or like the Yummy Waves, the Synchros. They will set up a Yummy name in the graveyard, although set up having a Yummy name on field for the Snatchy to either do the quick Synchro to dodge the Imperm or the Veiler, or they'll do the bounce out with the Synchro to dodge that. So you really want something that's a little bit more generally focused. So stuff for me like the Ghost Spell, I think is a decent option. You can use it to stop the special summon off of the Synchros or the Surprise. Ghost Ogre I think is okay as well, just to get the body off the field when they chain, either the pop, either the Quick Synchro. I think that one is like decent. Ash right here I think is great, in the respect that you're usually using Ash for the Obedience School. Like, if they're going first, they're more likely than not start off with the Obedience School, and if that resolves, they're playing pretty much through every hand trap that isn't Fua. So I think Ash is pretty good. Obviously, we don't personally use Ash in terms of like using it against Charmies, because we don't fear Charmies like that, but I think it can have application versus like Obedience School in specifically. I mean, yes, you can technically use it for Engage, but if I'm valuing it versus like Engage versus Obedience School, I'm using it on Obedience School way more often. And then there's like the Nibiru, but Nibiru I would say is like one of those cards that you kind of need more than one. You need to pair it with something rather than just using it straight up. Just because they do have the Link Spider in the extra deck to play through it, and even there's lines that they go with like a basic Hornet Drones line that does play through Nibiru. So you kind of want to have something paired with it. So it's not as high on my list comparatively to the Charmies, comparatively to Ash, Impulse. I think those are like the standard 4, at least for myself, in addressing this deck. And then honestly, if you want to go the route of board breakers, I think we have the best archetypal board breakers, being the Lunalight Fusion, or, although I don't run it currently, the heavy polymerization. Essentially, I treat these cards very similar to Sangan Kaiman, where if you can essentially kind of like bait through their interruptions, you can then just drop the nuke on them with the Lunalight Fusion to cheat out the Liger, or the heavy poly to cheat out the Liger, just because comparatively to Vanquish Soul, they can burn you with Borger if you wanted to resolve that. The only thing of note, specifically with Lunalight Fusion, in terms of how it interacts with Yummy, is that you just want to make sure that when you do use the Lunalight Fusion, they have already exhausted the tag outs that they possibly could have. Just because if you want to cheat out Liger and say they have like one of the synchros, and then they chain the synchro to the activation of the Lunalight Fusion, if they resummon the monsters from the graveyard, even if it's like a Yummy Snatchy, it isn't summoned from the extra deck. Thus, you don't get the benefit of being able to use your own extra deck for the fusion summon. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I think generally, those are the best quote-unquote board breakers for the deck, if you want to go that. And then just kind of like the pushes through their interaction, if you do manage to either stop them from getting to the Herald of the Arclight, or to the, or if you just like half board them, we don't really have to worry too much about the Book of Moon or the pop, just because you're going to be running Lunalight Tiger, you're going to be running the 2 copies of Perfume, and then you have like the extra pushes, even if you can't recover the name from the graveyard, or you don't have the poly or the Lunalight Fusion to sort of like recover the fact that you have 2 cards face down. You can still push through anything else that they might have, obviously barring whatever hand traps they may have. So I don't fear like those interactions too much. It's just because we just have the tools to like play through that. Like, if we were ever scared of a pop, I mean, we wouldn't have been like playing through metas where Ryziel is like pretty prominent, for example. So yeah, I think generally the deck has a very positive matchup into it. It's just with Yummy, you're going to have to play through the hand traps, going second and first, and just finding ways to address the Herald. I don't want anything that I say to be super definitive, but just be more mindful of the way that you go about building your decks going versus Yummy. Just because I think the propaganda behind like breakers being amazing versus the deck, I think is a little bit fraudulent. And I think hand trapping is the better way to go versus this deck specifically. But you also shouldn't fear that we don't have the tools in our deck to deal with it. And also, before I forget, you can still technically address the Herald with an infinite impermanence if you want to run that. I would just say the other thing to keep in mind is that they can just make another Herald as well. But I think if you address the first herald that's on the field, you know, forbid they have 2 heralds on the field, for whatever reason, you can just set up like your Liger with the banished Kaleido chick to go into the OTK during your battle phase with their stuff shut down. But I think that's it. Yeah. Honestly, thank you so much for watching. If you did, greatly appreciate it if you could leave a like, a comment, thoughts and suggestions. Do you want to see content like this more? I do plan to make a separate video for Draco Tail and for K9 specifically. But I know this is a big departure from the normal type of content that I make, which is more gameplay compilations. I will try to address every single comment that comes my way. But again, thank you for watching if you did, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.